The late afternoon light spilled through the tall windows of Velvet Bean Cafe, the kind of place that served espresso in crystal cups and charged extra for the view. The hum of laughter filled the air, mingling with the hiss of the milk steamer and the low hum of conversation. Every table seemed occupied by people who looked perfectly at home. Young professionals in tailored clothes, students with sleek laptops, couples sharing desserts that looked too perfect to eat, and then the door opened. A man stepped in, his gray shirt slightly wrinkled, his boots clean but well worn. He held a small bouquet of flowers, wrapped in paper that fluttered slightly in the air conditioning. He paused at the door, letting his eyes adjust to the soft light. A group of women sitting near the back noticed him. One of them leaned closer to the others, whispering behind her manicured hand. "He actually showed up," another chuckled. "This should be interesting." At their table sat a woman in a wheelchair, positioned near the window. Her posture was straight, graceful, but there was something in her eyes, something heavy, guarded, almost resigned. The woman who'd been whispering stood up and pushed the wheelchair gently toward the center of the cafe. "Let's see if he still stays," she murmured under her breath. The man saw them. He smiled, uncertain but kind, and walked forward, clutching the bouquet like it was a lifeline. "Hi," he said softly. "I'm Jack." The woman in the wheelchair looked up. "Clara," she replied quietly. Jack leaned down slightly, setting the bouquet on the table. "They said this was a blind date," he said with a faint grin. "But I think they might have been wrong." He looked awkward, nervous, but genuine, like someone trying his best to do the right thing in a place where he didn't quite belong. Jack Turner was 38, a single dad, the owner of a small auto repair shop on the edge of town. His hands were calloused from years of turning wrenches, his nails permanently lined with traces of grease. He lived a life of routines, school runs, workdays, late dinners with his daughter. His world was simple, but his heart wasn't. His friends, after one too many beers, had decided he needed to get back out there. They'd laughed, joked, and then set him up on a blind date. What they didn't tell him was that it was all a prank, an ugly, thoughtless joke at his expense. On the other side of that cruel joke was Clara Lane, 31, CEO of Lane Corp., a tech empire she had built from nothing. 3 years ago, a car crash had changed everything. The accident had left her paralyzed from the waist down, and since then, her world had shrunk into boardrooms and screens. Her friends convinced her to go on a date, promising it would be harmless, fun. What they didn't tell her was that they wanted to see if anyone would actually stay. As Jack sat down across from her, Clara's friends watched, phones ready, waiting for the moment he'd realize and leave. But Jack didn't leave, so, he said, glancing around, "They told me this place served burgers. Took me 20 minutes to figure out I was in the wrong kind of joint." Clara blinked, surprised by his humor. Despite herself, she let out a small laugh. "Not much of a burger place, no." "Well, guess I'll just have to settle for coffee. At the corner table," one of the women whispered, loud enough for Clara to hear. "Let's see how long he lasts." Clara's smile faded. She looked down at her hands. "You don't have to stay," she said quietly. "They were trying to be funny." Jack didn't move. "Maybe they were," he said calmly. "But I'm not leaving someone alone because of a joke." There was no pity in his voice. No performance. Just steady human warmth. He told her about his daughter, Ella. 9 years old, curious, creative, endlessly kind. "She makes paper flowers," he said, smiling. "Leaves them all over the place. Toolbox, truck, shoes. Last week I found one floating in my coffee." Clara laughed again, softly, genuinely this time. The kind of laugh she hadn't heard from herself in months. "She sounds sweet," she said. "She's my compass," Jack replied. "She tells me when I'm being dumb. Keeps me honest. What'd she say about dates?" Clara teased. "That I should comb my hair," Jack said, pretending to be serious. "She also made me take this." He patted his pocket, where a small, hand-stitched handkerchief rested. On it, in crooked red letters, were the words, "Strong hearts walk farther." It had been a gift from Ella that morning, a reminder of what mattered. Clara noticed the sincerity behind his rough exterior. Every word he spoke carried warmth. He wasn't like the polished men who usually tried to impress her with titles or money. Jack was simple, real. And then his phone rang. He excused himself, stepping outside to answer. The moment he was gone, one of Clara's friends walked over, feigning sympathy. "Poor thing," she said with a false smile. "He's just pitying you." Clara's chest tightened. Maybe she was right. Maybe this whole thing was another way life was reminding her she was broken. But when Jack came back, he stopped beside the woman. His voice was firm, steady. "No," he said, looking straight at her. "I'm admiring her." The woman froze, color draining from her face. Without another word, she left. Jack sat back down, sipping his coffee like nothing had happened. "Sorry about that," he said lightly. "My daughter wanted to make sure I wasn't embarrassing her." Clara stared at him, speechless. No one had ever stood up for her like that, not since the accident. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she whispered. Jack set down his cup and met her gaze. "Because my daughter taught me something important," he said. "Being different doesn't mean being less. And honestly, I don't see anything different about you. I see someone strong enough to show up when others wouldn't." Tears welled in Clara's eyes. "You're not like most people," she said softly. "Neither are you," he replied. They talked until the cafe lights dimmed. When they finally said goodbye, Clara thanked him. "For staying, for seeing me," Jack smiled. "Thank you for letting me." Outside, her friends watched in stunned silence. Their cruel prank had turned into something they couldn't understand, something genuine. 3 days later, Jack got a call for a big repair job downtown, an elevator malfunction in one of the tallest corporate towers in the city. It was good money, and he needed it. He arrived wearing his work boots, carrying his toolbox, expecting to crawl through a maintenance shaft. Instead, a receptionist told him, "The CEO wants to approve all modifications personally. This way, please." He followed her through glass hallways that smelled like new money. When the conference room doors opened, his heart nearly stopped. Sitting at the head of the table, in a tailored gray suit, was Clara Lane. Their eyes met. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Clara's voice, calm but steady, "Mr. Turner, please, come in." He stepped forward, every executive in the room staring at the man in the oil-stained shirt. "This is Jack Turner," Clara said to the room. "We met a few days ago." Soft murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Mr. Turner treated me like a person," Clara continued. "Not like a CEO, not like someone to pity. He treated me with dignity. And that's something I value more than any resume." One of the executives frowned. "With respect, Miss Lane, what does that have to do with elevator repairs?" Clara's tone hardened. "Everything." She opened a folder on the table. "For months, we've been developing a new initiative, projects that make workplaces more accessible, more human. I want Mr. Turner to lead it." The room erupted in confusion. "He's a mechanic," one man protested. "And you," Clara said coolly, "are a man who interrupted me." The silence that followed was absolute. Jack sat frozen, unsure what to say. "I don't understand," he murmured. Clara's expression softened. "Because 3 days ago you saw me, not my wheelchair, not my position, just me. You chose kindness when others chose cruelty." Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out Ella's handkerchief. He held it up quietly. "My daughter made this," he said. "She says strong hearts walk farther." Clara's eyes shimmered. "Your daughter is very wise," she said softly. "And so are you." The boardroom had gone silent. For once, no one had a comeback. "Will you consider my offer?" Clara asked. Jack looked around the room, then back at her. "Yes," he said finally. "I'll consider it." Clara smiled. The same real, unguarded smile he'd seen at the cafe. "Good," she said. "Then let's start by fixing those elevators. After that, we'll fix the world." The story didn't stay quiet for long. Someone from the coffee shop had filmed the date, the prank. They posted it online, expecting people to laugh. But no one laughed. The world saw something else, a man treating a woman in a wheelchair with respect, kindness, and warmth. The video went viral overnight. 10 million views, then 20. Soon, news outlets picked it up. CEO promotes mechanic after viral blind date. Single dad teaches corporate world what kindness really means. Jack's phone didn't stop ringing. Reporters wanted interviews. Talk shows called. His repair shop overflowed with customers who wanted to support him, but the most surprising calls came from Clara's so-called friends, the ones who'd set up the prank. They wanted forgiveness. Some sent flowers, some sent gifts. One showed up at Jack's garage in person, the woman who'd accused him of pity. "I'm sorry," she said, eyes red. "We thought it was funny." "We didn't think," Jack cut her off gently. "You didn't think she deserved respect?" The woman looked down. "We were wrong." "Yes," Jack said softly. "You were," she left in silence. Jack watched her go, not angry, just sad. It shouldn't take a viral video for people to remember how to be human. 3 weeks later, there was a knock at Jack's door. He opened it to find Clara there, smiling. "Hi," she said. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Before Jack could answer, Ella ran up, eyes wide. "You're the lady from Daddy's phone!" Clara laughed. "I guess I am." Ella tilted her head. "Did my daddy make you smile?" Clara glanced at Jack. "He reminded me that I still can." Ella grinned proudly. "That's because he has a strong heart. I taught him that." Tears welled in Clara's eyes. "You're absolutely right." Then Ella hugged her, tight, unhesitatingly. Clara froze for a moment, then hugged her back, realizing how long it had been since someone had embraced her without fear. That evening, the three of them sat in Jack's backyard, eating pizza and laughing under the stars. When Ella fell asleep on Clara's lap, Clara looked up at Jack. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me." "For staying. For teaching your daughter to be kind." Jack smiled. "She taught me first." 1 year later. The sun gleamed off the glass of a new building downtown. A sign above the entrance read, "The Lane Foundation, Center for Dignity and Independence." Jack stood outside in a crisp shirt, his daughter's hand in his. "Nervous, Daddy?" Ella asked. "A little," he admitted. "Don't be," she said wisely. "You're good at this." She was right. Over the past year, Jack had helped design accessible homes, job training programs, and new community projects that changed hundreds of lives. Inside, the building buzzed with energy. Families, community leaders, people in wheelchairs, people with canes, people with prosthetics and service dogs. It wasn't a building. It was hope made visible. Near the front stood Clara. She was standing, carefully, slowly, using prosthetic legs. She still used her wheelchair most days, but today she wanted to stand. When she saw Jack and Ella, her face lit up. "Clara!" Ella shouted, running to her. "You're walking." "I am," Clara said, kneeling slightly to hug her. "Because someone taught me that strength doesn't mean giving up." She looked up at Jack, her eyes bright. "Thank you. For everything." Jack helped her back to her feet. "I didn't do anything special," he said. Clara smiled. That's what made it special. When the ceremony began, Clara gave a speech to the crowd. Her voice carried confidence and warmth. "A year ago," she said, "I sat in a coffee shop waiting for humiliation. What I found instead was hope. One man reminded me that kindness isn't pity, it's power, and that power can change the world." She gestured toward Jack. "He didn't see a CEO or a wheelchair. He saw a person. Because of that, hundreds of people now have a place where they're seen too." Applause thundered through the hall. Jack tried to hide his embarrassment, but his daughter beamed up at him. After the ceremony, the three of them went to a nearby lake. The sun was setting, painting the water gold. Clara switched back to her wheelchair, tired but happy. They sat in silence, watching the light shimmer on the surface. Clara looked down at her prosthetic legs. The metal caught the sunlight like a quiet flame. "They thought they were making fun of me," Jack said softly. "But life," Clara replied, "was setting up something far better." She reached for his hand. He took it. Ella slipped her small hand into Clara's other one. 3 people, broken in different ways. 3 people who had found each other when the world was unkind. The sun sank below the horizon, the lake glowing with the last light of day. And there, in that quiet moment, kindness rewrote destiny.